Good morning, everybody. How are we doing? This is Jeremiah. We are having a webinar today. I hope you are ready and excited. This is something that's been on our to-do list for quite some time, and just the nuances of scheduling webinars and picking topics, and this is just something that's come up in many of our little webinar planning meetings. We need to do a webinar on sheet sets, and hey, today's the day. So I hope you're ready. It's going to be great. We have some cool stuff to show, and we're super excited because it definitely got us jazzed as we're even finding some more ways that we can interact with sheet sets, and what can we do more with it. Why not? Right? It's a whole new realm. It's just something we've kind of purposely and unknowingly neglected a bit. Is just sheet sets are there and they're awesome and people use them, whatever. But it's really kind of opened our eyes to, well, what can we do more with these to put a little land effect spin on them. You know what I mean? So anyway, it's gonna be pretty cool. I have a couple super quick housekeeping items and we'll get going. I just wanted to remind you this is of course being recorded. It'll be up on the website later today. And so of course to all you in the future watching this, hello. And but you here now, it is live, so you are able to interact with us. That's that Q&A button at the bottom right of your screen. I recommend clicking it now. Get that question box situated on the screen where you want it. It'll be easier for you to type a question to us, but also note you're going to be able to see the answers that we type to other people's questions. So it makes a fun little companion. You're here with us during this fun little ride over the next 59 minutes. I hope you're ready. So hey, Amanda, let's take it away.
Sounds great. Thanks, Jer. Hello. Glad to see everybody again. Let's get started. I'm Amanda Moran. I'm a landscape architect. I'm a guru, trainer, development tester here at Land Effects, and I hope you're as excited as I am to start a conversation about the Sheet Set Manager today. Okay, so we're going to be starting with the basics of how sheet sets work for those not too familiar with them, and also how they work with land effects, which should be great, like a great section even for those who are more familiar with sheet sets already. Part of why we wanted to do this webinar is also to get some feedback for our sheet set manager wish list, which Jer mentioned in the intro. We want to focus more on this in 2022 and 2023. So this webinar is part of that sheet set project of how can we better mesh these two things together, that sheet set manager and the sheets index with land effects, so that you get the best of both worlds. I'm going to be showing our currently preferred setup method for the best connection to the land effects tools. But I want you guys to open up that Q&A box. Jerset was down at the bottom. If you're watching this live, open it up right now to start thinking about any requests if you already have experience with the sheet sets. And if your method is different from what I'm showing today, because we want to kind of eventually add more tools to allow more methods. I know that there are as many methods to set up and organize your sheets in the Sheet Set Manager as we have firms using it, because I've seen you guys send them in for technical support. So I kind of see that little DST file and I might click it just to see how you're organizing it. And there's a lot of different ways. So I'm just going to showcase the method that stood out to me as working really well with the land effects sheet index. So I'm just going to preface that Sheet Set Manager, it's a powerful tool, but it's very complex too. But my aim today is to make it approachable for all landscape architects, because I know this is an underused and avoided tool, and it shouldn't be. It's great. I was somebody who was also a little bit scared to learn it because it just felt like such this big thing that would be hard to learn unless somebody had already set it up for you. So I'm just going to take it and make it more approachable and show you how to set it up right from the beginning. So first, I get this question a lot. What is the difference between the Sheet Set Manager and the Sheet Index? And I've answered it on our forums, but here's a synopsis of the difference between this Sheet Set Manager and this Sheet Index with land effects, because some people do get a bit confused by the two if they're using both. So here are some of the points. I'll go through them, but very quick as an overview, the Sheet Index is not a replacement for the Sheet Set Manager. That's not what it's intended to do. The Sheet Index with land effects is, it's just a land effects tool, and it's accessed from the project manager. Its primary purpose is to facilitate the FX details tools. The FX detail tools are better than what the Sheet Set Manager can provide for detail management. And our detail tools works without needing to learn the Sheet Set Manager as well. So it's kind of a way for, if you're not using the Sheet Set Manager, you can still kind of manage sheets a little bit, but get all that capability of the detail tools. However, the Sheet Set Manager also has so many great uses. We're not trying to butt heads with it. And I do want to point out today that they work great together as a pair and give a better result together than on their own separately. I will say that. We'd like to improve this relationship over time, so feel free to send in tickets if you're watching this recording with recommendations on how to integrate them better for our wish list after you kind of watch how they're integrating together. So really quickly going through this is that what the sheet index is better at, again, overviewing. It does these previews of details, as well as you can click that plus button and actually assign photographs of that detail. Maybe it's a photograph of a bench, so that you're not just looking at the line work detail, you're also looking at what it actually looks like, which is a really awesome tool if you use that detail preview, either in the detail manager or with the edit object on a detail call out on any sheet. It will bring this up. It also, I feel, is so much better at saving and organizing details. I've had a look at how the Sheet Set Manager does it, and I just don't feel it's at that level. I feel it's easier to place details on a sheet with the detail manager, and it's certainly easier to label, less confusing. Whereas the Sheet Set Manager is better at these general tasks of general layout and drawing management. Being able to quickly open linked sheets. You can open linked sheets in the sheet index with land effects, but I would say the controls in the Sheet Set Manager are easier for that particular function. Also, something that you can't get in the sheet index that you can only get in the Sheet Set Manager is this auto-filling of title block fields, as well as batch plotting is so much better. And it also helps in a few other things. So use them together to get all of those. And here are a few other benefits of learning and using the Sheet Set Manager if you haven't already. If you're like me and you were avoiding it. So I feel after even just kind of diving into it a lot, I would say the only time, Jer actually asked this question while we were prepping for this webinar and getting it all together. He said, like, is there a case where somebody shouldn't use the Sheet Set Manager? And I said, honestly, the only scenario I could think of was if you just do planting plans with one layout total, like you just have one layout, it's in one drawing, probably don't need the Sheet Set Manager for that. You're not going to get many of the benefits. As soon as you hit two layouts, you arguably are starting to get into, it might be better to start using the Sheet Set Manager territory. It gets gray, but then once you get into three, obviously if you have two, you're going to snowball into more. And I feel like at that point, all of this is going to help you. So it's easier to plot, publish, and also e-transmit an entire drawing set. But really importantly, we're going to cover today that it's easier to get a better best CAD practice workflow with your drawing setup, which is the one drawing per sheet that we keep hammering home in all the rest of our webinars. This is going to help you accomplish that in your workflow, make it easier to do. It helps enforce a company-wide organization. You can update many fields across many title blocks, all in different drawings, right before you're published, which is great. And you don't have to deal with an XREF title block to be able to do that with the Sheet Set Manager, although arguably using an XREF title block would help advance your workflow and being able to control more things. Also shows which files are opened by somebody else, which is key for being able to ping and bug somebody to get out of a file. It tells you right there who's in it. Okay, so today we're really going through a lot of basics. So I don't want you to come in here thinking we're doing too many advanced sheet set stuff, mostly focusing on starting with a sheet set, creating a new sheet set from scratch for somebody who hasn't done it before, making your title blocks link to it as in a particular way that talks to land effects and its sheet index. How to then update your drawing templates with that title block, and then adjust your workflow for your future drawings to continue using this in the future, as well as kind of touching on a few more things in the sheet index with land effects. Some tools that aren't in the Sheet Set Manager. Okay, so let's go to CAD. We'll cover that at the end. But, okay, so I'm here in CAD. I've done an example set of drawings. I've actually kind of taken a set of drawings that we actually use for ASLA presentations. So I wanted to take an example that maybe a lot of people attending right now might not have the best workflow and might not be one drawing per sheet. So I have two different drawings, one general and one for irrigation, attached to a base file, and they have multiple layouts in here because I figure that's where some people are coming from. If you're already one layout per sheet, awesome, you're golden, you're ahead of the game. But let's kind of go through here to get everything together. So very quickly, there are two things we want to talk about. First is when I say sheet index, I'm actually talking about here in the project manager. I'm not going to open it right now because I'm not technically linked to a land effects project yet on this drawing. I'm going to do that later, but that's where you'd find that sheet index that I showed you that screenshot of before. You can also find it if you go into FX details and go down here. That will also link technically to the project manager as well, even though it's called sheet index here. And these are all those detail tools that are definitely ideal. So, but let's look at that sheet set manager. So I'm just going to type SSM in my command line. I could go find it in the ribbon, but this is, it's such an easy enough shortcut that I'd rather just use this. And here we go. We have this sheet set manager and it is blank. Quick overview of this. We're going to stay entirely in this sheet list tab. Today, we're going to focus on this because this is the one that mostly deals with the things that connect to land effects. I have some recommendations on further reading if you want to start going into sheet views and model views. I will say model views is mostly how the Sheet Set Manager works with detail tools. But again, I find these tools so much better. But you can actually link like named views to quickly put viewports on a page. It's a nice little avenue, but it's not essential to get your initial benefits from the Sheet Set Manager. So to start with the Sheet Set Manager, it's really just as easy as just starting. Like I don't even need this drawing open. I can just completely close this drawing entirely, start with a blank drawing and just start making a sheet set. So I'm gonna drop this down. I have some options here, including new sheet set. So I'm going to click that and it opens up this wizard to create one. And right off the bat, it's asking, do I want to use an example sheet set or start from existing drawings? We're going to do existing drawings, but I'm just going to click on this to show you what it is. So if I go to example sheet set and click next, I can see two things in here. I've put those in. So this is kind of a preview of where we're going. We're going to create these in here, these examples. Now, if you have full AutoCAD installed, you're going to see a few others in here like architectural, civil, mechanical sheet sets. And those are, yeah, they're examples, but I found as a landscape architect that almost none of them applied to me. Their organization in these sheet sets, the other examples had nothing to do with what I was working on, didn't even have a landscape section in it, so they were useless to me. To the point where here in FXCAD, if you have FXCAD installed, we've actually ripped them out entirely because you're just not going to use them. So I'm going to show you how to make your own that is actually usable. So I'm going to go back and go based on existing drawings. So I can start this whole process halfway through a project where I've already got drawings set up, or you can use this on a past project where you have already kind of started setting everything up. It really does help. So if I go next, it's asking me the name of this new sheet set. I want to name this something similar to what I've named in land effects in my project list. So I'm going to give it, I'm just going to name it with my project number. I'm going to say 001. And my imaginary project is Orchid Avenue. So that's what I'm going to name it. There's a few things you can actually tie into this later in your title block. So name this strategically based on what you're going to learn today. I can add a description. I believe this can also be inserted in your title block. So you can be strategic about it or just be descriptive. I'm going to leave it alone for now. It's optional. Next, I need to tell it where to store the sheet set data file, that DST file. This file is just like, it's like an XML, like a text file, and it's only going to tell this window what to display. It doesn't contain, it contains shortcuts. It's very similar to how Land Effects works, actually. So if I click on those three buttons, I need to start exploring. So I have my overall Orchid Avenue folder, and I've organized it by date, mostly so that I can separate all my tests before today. And we're going to start on this one that's actually a future date from today. But if I drop this down, I did want to point out something because I know a lot of people who might be in this situation where they have multiple layouts in a single drawing, might have a folder set up where everything's kind of in one folder. I've seen some people on screen shares, sorry to call you guys out, that have all of their DWG files in their documents folder on their computer. So I'm going to say, please stop that and do this method instead, where I've kind of separated it out. It actually shows a bit better here, where I would say at this point, you would have, instead of this kind of CAD folder, you would have a folder somewhere on your computer or shared server that says projects, so that it's very clear that this is the folder where all of your DWG files for all of your different projects and designs are going to be. And then you start separating that out into different folders per project, ideally named with the same project number and name that you use in Land Effects. And that's just so that you have just one organization system. So if you ever added another person to the team, it's a lot easier for them to learn it all. So please start organizing your drawings into folders. So I'm now in that project folder for this particular project. I like to separate out then my drawings into dated versions. And this does work with this workflow. Some people don't do this, but I want to now pick a locate this DST file, because remember, that's what we're saving right now, this DST file. I want to put it in the top level folder. And I know I do want to mention some people will then, instead of having all of their drawing files in this top level folder, they'll then separate them out into like a landscape folder and a grading folder and an irrigation folder. That is ideal, and that's what we're getting to. So if you've already done that, awesome. Again, you're ahead of the game. Kind of talking to the people who don't do that yet. We need this DST folder in the top level folder, and then eventually what I found, the point I'm getting to, is that you can't put the DST file in a side folder, kind of like what I've done over, did I do over here? Yeah, I tried this where I put the sheet sets in their own folder, and that totally didn't work. The sheet set has to be in this top level folder. It can't be in a side folder, is basically the point I'm making here. Let's go back. Okay, so here I am, top level folder. I'm going to click open, and we're going to move on with this process. At this point, you can kind of look at the sheet set properties. We're going to go into them a bit more. You don't need to fill in anything right now. You can fill it all in later. So I'm going to click next. Now it's asking me to choose layouts. This is where I pick those existing drawings that I've already set up for this project that I'm halfway through, and it's going to import all of the layouts. So I'm going to browse, and I'm going to go ahead and browse to that folder where those drawing files that I want to include, that's where they are. This one that had 4 layouts, and this one has 2. So I'm going to pick that folder and click OK, and there they are, boom. It's picked up the name of the actual layout tabs. We're going to rename all of those. And it's also happened to pick out a blank layout that it was in my base file. I don't need that one, so I'm going to uncheck that. I just want all of the layouts that I would actually plot in particular. Let's click next. And this is just a summary of everything we've done. So I can click finish. And there we go. They're all added into here. It's automatically numbered them. We're going to be changing all of that. But right off the bat, I wanted to point out some benefits that I've gained from about 5 minutes of work in this. One benefit is I can click on any of these and double click it, and it's going to automatically open that layout in that drawing, which is really awesome. The second benefit is that it's already telling me when a file is open and in use. You just saw those locks appear. So those are saying, hey, this drawing with all of these layouts is open. And if I hover over this, I can look down and see a little bit closer to the bottom that it's currently open by Amanda. When it was last saved, when it was who last edited it, all of that information. So 2 benefits there, but then the third benefit that I instantly get is that even though I don't even have all of these files open and all of my layouts are in 2 separate files, I can drop this down and I can publish. So I've already set up everything with the right file page size, so I can go ahead and publish the PDF. Give it a location. I'm just going to go to that folder where all of my stuff for this presentation is, and there we go. I can save it into there. And then I'm just going to open that up over here so you can see what it's done. I know a lot of my sheets are blank right now. I didn't totally put in all of the details and everything yet. I just kind of wanted to do this as an example, but you can see LDO2. Oh, I had pressed PDF while I was on just the one sheet. And so, but it will, oh, no, there it goes. It seems to be, I want to click on this and then publish the PDF. Sorry, guys, for my ignorance on that one. There we go. Now it's doing all of them because I clicked on the top level and then clicked publish. So you can actually select a few different, if you only want to plot a few different pages, you can just kind of select them with control. But you can also you can select them with control, but you can also go in here and go into the properties of each sheet and actually tell them if they're included in a publish. So I've got a lot of great controls already, and I really haven't done anything. I haven't dived anywhere into the Sheet Set Manager other than just pull these in. Now it created a PDF with the pages in this order, and this is not necessarily the order that I want them in. So I need to start doing a little bit of organization. So let's do that. It's really quick. I'm just going to grab my planting design. I want that at the top. And I'm dragging and dropping them. Then hardscape design, drag and drop, irrigation, great. I want planting details first and hardscape. This is a very simple project, right? It's just planting, hardscape, irrigation, all one page, and then 3 separate pages for my details. But they're not totally numbered correctly. And here's where I'm going to start suggesting to organize a little bit more. I'm going to click on here and we're going to right click and go to new subset. I'm going to say planting and I'm going to say yes to folder hierarchy. I told you guys before about how I suggest that you save separate drawings per each layout, and then that they should be organized really in separate folders inside down here. Now you can see in my October 31st folder, I now have that DST file already saved and going. I have that PDF file that I saved over here, but I'm going to start making a better path for the future, and I'm going to start telling it to make separate folders for when I create sheets in the future. So create folder hierarchy set to yes. Now everything down here, it doesn't totally matter. I can change them later to update them based on my preferences going forward. But importantly, you can't change this option later. You have to set this in advance. You can't edit it later. It doesn't give you the option. So I say set yes. If you really are holding on to all of your DWGs in one folder, then go ahead and hit no. I'm going to say okay. And that created a subset. I'm going to go ahead and really quickly do the rest of them. Hardscape. And of course, I'm choosing these because they make sense based on the kinds of groups of sheets that I might have in my project. But obviously with you guys, you can set anything in here, organize it however you want, and just make it kind of work for you and your workflows. So I'm in particular going to separate out my details sheets. But you might keep maybe planting details with planting design. Honestly, I would organize them in a way that made sense for the order that you're going to be plotting them in a single drawing package. So I'm going to move, drag and drop all of these into these different subsets. Oh, let's move that to the end of that one. And this one down at the end of here. Okay. They're all starting to organize. And now, because I said, yes, create a folder hierarchy, let's look at our folder now, and we can see that it's starting to create a folder hierarchy over here. So it's starting to passively force us into a better CAD standard. Now, the next thing I want to do is start going into a better CAD standard of numbering them in a way that will talk to land effects. So I'm going to go ahead and right click on here, go into properties. I can also go to rename and renumber, but I'm actually going to go into properties. and I'm going to change the name of this, the name and number of this sheet. So I don't want this to be number 3. And I've seen people actually number it with numbers as if it were a sheet count. I'm going to suggest a different way to do a sheet count, because this sheet number in particular is going to link, I'm going to link it to land effects. So it's better to actually have this be like, in this case, LPO1, or however you number your actual sheets. Include for publish, yes. It has options for revision number and revision date down here. I just want to point these out because they are sheet specific. I prefer my revision numbers and dates to update across the entire, all sheets all at once. So I would honestly, I'm going to show you a different way to do these because I want them to be project wide, and this is just per sheet. I'd have to go into each sheet and fill that number out, or at least select a whole bunch of sheets and fill the number all out at once. So I'm going to go LPO1, planting design is good. I do want to rename the layout to match with the sheet title and the prefix sheet number. So these are some options. Okay, click OK. That updated over here. It also updated the layout down here. But noticeably, it did not update any of my things in this title block. And that's because this is not a title block linked to any fields or the Sheet Set Manager yet. And we're going to go through how to do that. This is just a block right now with attributes. So if I double click it, I can go through here and change all of these, but I'm going to show you a way I really, really like now, where I can just start going through and changing everything here in the Sheet Set Manager. So I'm going to go through. I can also do rename and renumber over here and number that LH01. And I am going to, I'm going to redo that one. I know there's probably a lot of questions coming in, but I think I'm going to save them to the end just to make sure that I get through everything that I wanted to get through. But this is irrigation design. So I'm actually changing the sheet title here, and you can see how that's going to work, even though I don't have the file open right now. Let's go rename and renumber. LD01. And I can actually even click next and go down. So this is L-D02, next, L-D03. And they all switched. And now if I open up, let's go to this one where I even changed the name of the sheet. I can double click on it. It'll open up that file. It'll open it up to that layout. And I can see down here how it's already updated these layout tabs names. So a little bit of file management right here for you guys. So the next thing I want to kind of get to in this workflow is, now that we've got everything kind of organized and the names and everything are together. Did I move hardscape into, I didn't move hardscape actually into the subset. There we go. Now that they're all organized, I can start linking this title block to these fields. So the first thing I want to do is I want to do all these changes to the title block actually in a new sheet. I don't want to do them here in this sheet, this drawing that I've already started. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to show you actually how this works. So I've organized all these layouts into these subfolders, but you'll see over here that those files, the working drawing and working drawing irrigation, are still up here. They haven't moved. And if I go into the details folder, there's still nothing in here. So let me show you a really cool thing. Now I can right click on this subset folder, add a new sheet. It's asking me to specify a DWT. So I'm going to go and find my Office DWT that I like to use. I'm going to say open. A1 is the same as ArcD. And my new sheet number, this is just a test, so I'm just going to give it a number. We're going to delete it later, and I'm going to open it in the drawing editor. So it added test into the detail subfolder. You can add a file even into the outside of you can add a sheet outside, but now what it's doing, really, really cool. I'm going to delete these because I won't need them for this. Is if I go into that folder, it actually created that DWG. This DWG that we're working on right now, it created it from scratch, and now it's organized it into that detail subfolder. So let's go ahead and keep working on this. So here I am in that 00 test. And what I'm going to do, so I already have some attributes going on in this. Now, I'm going to change them instead of being just double click and change them in here and change the value manually. I'm going to link them to a field that will read these detail numbers. Now, the place I don't want to do this is in this enhance attribute editor. Do not make these changes in here. I'm going to show you two places where you can make the changes. The reason is because I've learned from other people's accounts of the mistake is that if you add a field into this window, it gives the possibility for somebody to overwrite it in the future and completely lose everything because you're just adding a value. What you want to do is change the default value. So I'm going to say cancel. I'm not going to edit it in here. One place I can edit it is if I select it, right click, block editor, and open up the block editor itself. And then I have this, I can select it and look at my properties, and you can see it's an attribute definition. So now when I double click that attribute definition, I get that default setting. So I am going to change this tag actually over to sheet. No, and this is very important. I need to use this in the tag to connect to LandFX. So if I go down, I just want to show you this work page, working with sheet sets. And in here, it outlines that in order for the sheet index to connect to the sheet set manager, I have to use one of these attribute tags. That's what it's looking for. So I'm sticking with sheet no, I like it. And then for the default, I'm going to delete this. I'm going to right click and I'm going to insert field. And I'm going to go down to the sheet number, which is in this list right here. There we go, current sheet number. That's what I want for this. I'm going to say OK. And it looks like nothing right now, but it is going to do something. I click OK. And that is in there. I'm just going to move this over a little bit. There. I also have this sheet description. Now it's a bit different. It's already a multi-line attribute. So it edits a little bit differently. I'm going to double click it. I'm going to call this, instead of sheet description, sheet title, to be a bit more close to how Sheet Set Manager works. Title. I'm going to click these three buttons because it's a multi-line attribute. I'm going to delete that, right click, insert field, and we're going to go with the not the number and title, but the current sheet title down here. I'm going to say OK, and that adds that in. I'm going to click OK and click OK, and that did that. Now, if you have something like this project title, that it's currently an M text, it's not an attribute. While you can add a field to an M text, I feel the attributes are more powerful and give you a bit more versatility in the future. So you can easily turn an M text or a text into a attribute by going down here in FX Site, Text Manager, Text to Attribute. I'm going to click that, going to click that. Project title, that's fine. I'm going to click here and we're going to insert field. current sheet set. That will pull that sheet set name that I said at the beginning that I said, hey, you can link this to your title block. Okay. So you can go through here, you can set date, you can set scale, you can also set a count of your sheets. And I'm going to show you how, really quickly how to create, actually, I'm going to see if I have time at the end to be able to set some current, some custom sheet fields, because there isn't a field in that field box that I was in before for like 1 of 20. You can't do a count like that with the fields that are in there, but you can with some custom fields, as well as being able to set in those revision fields that will apply to all sheets at once. That's where you would do that. So I'm going to say close. We're going to save the changes to this title block, and nothing happened. Don't worry, that was planned. I knew that nothing was going to happen. That's because of the way that blocks update with attributes. It's actually not going to show the information right away. So what I'm going to do is just delete this. I made note the scale of this is actually 1000. So I'm going to do I for insert. It's going to pull up the block insert. I'm going to grab that block that's in my current drawing. I'm going to place it at 0, 0 because I smartly set up my title block to have an insertion point there, and my scale is 1000 for this drawing. And it already filled everything in. Isn't that cool? It's already doing it. It's pulling that all that information as well as the overall sheet set name into here. And I'm going to click OK. And it filled it all in here. Isn't that cool? I really like that. Okay, it gets better. It does get even better with just that little amount of work. So I've started to do this. I've set all this up. You can keep going, adding more stuff into here, but I want to save this as a template now that I can start making new sheets from in the future. So I'm going to overwrite my old template or make a new one. You kind of decide what's best for you. I'm going to do before I do a save as and save it as a template, very important, I need to delete it from the sheet set. What happens is as soon as you create a drawing like this, it puts in a little data tag that tells it to look at this sheet set. We don't want that to happen in the future. When you use this as a template for other sheet sets, you don't want it to default to this one. So I'm going to delete this from remove sheet from this sheet set. Okay. I'm going to RE to regen all the REA. I might just pull those. So I'm just going to say I'm going to save this as it is right now. Great. I'm going to save as. I'm going to save as a DWT, and that should go straight to whatever template folder your CAD is set to. You can see I've done a few over here. So I'm just going to make my own webinar. There we go. Save. That's fine. I don't need a description for now. Okay, that's saved as a DWT. Now, the only other thing, though, is I need to update all the title blocks on my other sheets, because if I go back there, there's still this old one with the regular attributes. So I'm going to grab this title block. Okay, and I'm going to copy base. So I have in FX CAD, I have a shortcut up here, but it's copy base, it's the command. Copy base point 0, 0, because that's how I set it up. And I'm going to go to my metric drawing. And here's what you got to do to update all these. If you want this drawing to be all nice and connected, I have to go through each layout and delete them, because what I actually have to do is clear the block definition from this drawing. So I'm deleting all of these, and then I'm going to do a purge. Glad it caught my spelling mistake. Now you can just pick your title block out from here, or you can go ahead and purge all the blocks or everything. I'm just going to purge it all. I don't need anything. Close. So that's purged out. Now I'm going to Control V 0, enter, and there it is. And it auto filled in that this is the hardscape details sheet. Go to planting details, Control V, 0, bam, planting details, hardscape, Control V, 0, hardscape. You kind of get the gist now of what I'm doing. And of course, I would go into my irrigation file and do the exact same thing. It's going to pull up all the information. But now when I create that extra details file and do a new sheet, I want to test that my new DWT worked. I'm going to do a new detail sheet, say LDO4. We'll call this extra details. Open in drawing editor. Yes, it's saving into the correct folder. You can see here the October 31st details. I'm gonna say okay. I picked the wrong template. Let me do that again and pick the right template. LD05. Test. There we go. Let me pick the right sheet template. It does not want me. I'm going to force it to do this. Cancel. We're going to change my properties for my sheet storage location, sheet creation template. I'm going to change that to my webinar one, because I think what it's doing is it's pulling from what I have set for QNew. Okay, I should have renamed that 00 test layout to the actual page size again to make it clearer. Say okay, apply to all the subsets, new sheet, and it should be webinar. There we go. LD06, I think I'm on. Test. Okay.
Super real extra details.
Super real extra details. And you can see it's already, this is the cool thing. Okay, so now it's really, really, I mean, like I just created a sheet and it filled out everything. So the more work you do in filling out fields in here, the better it's going to be. I did want to talk a little bit about how this now connects with land effects and then also with completely new drawing sets. So with land effects then, I haven't set this to a land effects projects purposefully for this webinar, which means that if I go and I create a new project, see if I click on project manager, nothing's set. So I'm going to do a new project and we're just going to call this webinar. MA test. There we go. I'm going to set this one to metric. Okay. It normally would have, when you create a new project like that, it has nothing in it in the sheet index, but now it's auto-populating with the sheet number specifically, and honestly, it's best guess right now as to the title. We are going to be fixing this. I think it's actually, Jared, I think it's pulling the title from it might be from there, it might be from there. We'll see. We're working on that one, but you can easily.
It's the nature of it. The somewhat technical thing is we can't technically access the full sheet set information from Lisp, and so we can't just perfectly access the sheet set. And so we can access the data, but we don't know what each field is. So there's just a bunch of strings in there, and you're right, it kind of guesses which one is the title. But now we're going to kind of revisit that and basically see if we can improve the logic.
And so I just assigned this planting drawing to that same project, and it fills in that in the sheet index. So the cool thing about this then, I'm just going to ignore the titles for now, but if I go to this planting details page and open up the project manager, it will auto load that. It's actually reading the field. It's not reading the sheet set manager like Jer said we can't. It's reading that field. That's why that attribute tag of sheet no was so important. That's what it's reading. And that's what it's filling in there. And in the future, we will have a better one for title. But that's what it's reading. So that's in there already. It's already auto assigned that sheet in your sheet index. So if I go into my details tools and I open up my manager and I add a planting detail into here, tree planting, sure. Let's see those previews. Yep, that looks like a great one to add to my project. Done. Place. And I'm, for anybody who hasn't used the details tools, I'm super simplifying how these work. There's a lot more control as to how they copy themselves for specific projects and how you can number them and everything. So it's totally worth it. I'm going to click that down, but it didn't even have to ask me what sheet this was. It already knew, and it starts organizing my detail manager right away so that I can then go over to my planting design and do a call out of that detail, click OK, and just place it in. Now, one thing I have noticed here that we're going to track down is that it doesn't autofill it right now. I think it's, what do you call it? It's conflicting with something with the existing fields on the sheet. But if I just do an @sync for right now as a workaround, select, right click to select the block, and yes, it will fill that in correctly. For some reason, it's just conflicting with something with the field. So we're going to look into what's happening there. But that's how you fix that. So that is a lot of how it interacts with land effects. I did want to point out a few more things in this sheet index that as we go through this, it's not quite ordering everything in the correct order, or it won't. I think if I go in and do, so it's doing LL, oh, I know, it is right now because I specifically told it to. Normally this sheet index would organize it LDO1, LDO6, and then LP because it's doing it alphabetically, alphanumerically. But what I've done is I've gone into my details preferences. This is an office-wide preference that you can fix it once for everybody, and went to sheet ordering and told it, okay, if you encounter this prefix, it goes before this prefix. And I kind of organize them here so that it can organize them in that sheet index. Now, one thing that both sheet index and sheet list do is the ability, you can see it over here. Oh, I can't because this is open. This sheet index allows you to create a legend. Sheet Set Manager allows you to create a table, which is a legend. So they both do the same thing where you can create a legend on your cover page of what all the sheets are. Each of them actually have different pros. So the Sheet Set Manager, they're fields, so they automatically update, which is really handy. However, the Sheet Index has better controls over the look of the table, I feel, as well as the ability to send it out to a spreadsheet. So on that one, kind of pick whatever works best for you, because you're going to have all the sheets listed in both places at once. Another thing I did want to note is that we're going to work on some controls. Right now, if you change the sheet number or name, it doesn't automatically update it in the sheet index. In fact, if you change the sheet number, it will add a new sheet in here. And we already know about it, and we're already going to fix it. We're just trying to figure out the best way to do that. Basically, we think it's going to be some sort of level of it recognizes that there's a mismatch and it asks you how you want to fix it. If you do want it to be a different sheet, or if you want it to be correct the information. So I think I've gone through just about everything. Oh, I did want to show you then how to use that DST file, and then hopefully we'll have about a few minutes left for questions. So in your in your options in CAD, you can find out where your template file is. And the default is here, but you might have it set to a different location if you're in a shared office. But basically, if you want that DST file to show up in that list of examples, you need to save the DST file in here with the rest of your DWT files. So if I go over here to my, not template file, but this one, and I grab under that one, Orchid Avenue, I can go ahead and pull that in and maybe rename it a bit. There we go. You would name it better than I just did. But here's what we can do. I'm going to open up a new drawing. I'm going to create a new sheet set. I'm starting a whole new project. This time I'm going to start an example sheet set. I'm going to say, okay, I'm going to base it off of that template. I'm going to say next. I'm going to give it a new name. 2021, I'll say 00010, new project. And I'm going to tell it where to save this data file, obviously somewhere different. CAD. I'm going to make a new folder entirely. You can see how easy this can be to set up. I mean, like ideally, you might want to already have the folder set up, but I'm just telling you how easy this can now be. So I'm going to save the DST file there, the new DST file it's creating. I'm going to check create folder hierarchy based on the subsets. I'm going to say next, finish. And that's created all that folder hierarchy. You can add more in here. You can add grading, you can add concept, all sorts of ways to organize all of these. And then if I go back up here into CAD, into that new project, I could see that new project DST, and as I start adding things, it should start adding those folders as well. But I could just start to new sheet. Hopefully it's basing it off of the right template. It is. Give it a number, a name, and open it up. And I'm off to the races creating sheets. One sheet per drawing already set up. Perfect CAD standards. Now, of course, you're going to keep going further with this, and there are ways to then add model space only drawings. You're going to XREF your bases between all the files. But since we're running out of time today, I'm going to kind of leave it there and tell you that there are more resources to keep going forward with this. We might do another webinar like this if there's enough demand. I learned a lot from this one, even though it's from 2005. Also learned a lot from Sam's class, but as well as a few other resources. These ones I felt were the best, but I kind of took a lot of what they said and synopsed it in here, along with some minor changes. But yeah, were there any pressing questions, Jer?
We've gotten some great questions. So,
Or maybe some
yeah, I
comments?
mean, across the board, I mean,
Uh-huh.
Steve says, they XREF the title block in,
Mhm.
and that was something, of course, you and I were chatting about, and just, for the purposes of this webinar, yeah, we're just showing the block. Obviously, yeah, you picture a 150 sheet set. It may well be, behoove you to have that title block be an XREF.
Yeah, because I felt like even if you were to add a location map up here that you might need to change, or like something changes down here where it's not just text that you can connect to a field, that's where the XREF title block really comes into play.
Exactly. So there's kind of matters on, the number of sheets and the kinds of projects you're doing. And then a couple of other ones that, one probably pretty easy. Can you include other disciplines like civil and architecture in the sheet set? And, certainly you can.
Yeah.
Although I believe only one user can make changes to the DST file at a time? I know I've heard of that problem before, but do you have any more comment on kind of multidiscipline sheet sets?
No, I was under the impression that multiple people could access the DST file at the same time. It would just tell you which files themselves were
Oh,
locked
all right.
from
So,
your ability.
gotcha. So it's basically built into it that it
Yeah.
really is
So,
the preferred way to be dealing with this.
yeah, you can, a lot of the examples that I saw online actually had these subsets, say architecture and civil and mechanical and maybe a landscape subset. So it might be different based on the people that you're working with. I kind of wanted to approach today based on a landscape architect trying to jump into this and gain the benefits of sheet sets.
Right. And yeah, and like Jonathan chimed in, agreeing, only one person can edit it at a time. And that's what would worry me. If you've got
Mhm.
5 different teams all editing a single DST file as they're adding and changing sheets, that sounds like that's error prone. And I think it'd behoove you instead to to kind of keep that separate, which relates to this other question that someone had. Let's kind of we'll kind of address their question and we'll call it with that. It's a great question from Andre. If you've what if your sheet set, your start number needs to be can't start with 1 because you're part of this combined set, and so can you do a custom start number to your sheet count?
I didn't find that. So with the sheet count, basically, because I kind of ran out of time today, the way that so far I found it to be effective is if I go through the actual properties in here and add my own custom field. So I edit and custom properties, I add, and I did total sheet count. And I just gave that a number. One of the guides online, he tells you to put a blank character into here. I don't like that personally, but that's a preference. So total sheet count would be for the whole sheet set. And I click OK and add, and then sheet count. I called it sheet count to differentiate it from sheet number. Sheet count. And that one would be connected to each sheet individually. It would change by sheet. Oh, I have to delete that. You can't edit sheet count. There's a lot of improvements that AutoCAD could do to this as well. But I click OK, that adds it in here. You can see sheet count and total sheet count in here. I click OK, and that is actually now saved into this. So if I'm on this new sheet that I put into planting, I can look at its properties. It has the sheet count. So maybe this is sheet 1 and say okay. And maybe if I go into the properties of my sheet set manager, I have this total sheet count and maybe there's 20. So I have to still tell it what sheet number everything is. I've seen, and then I add in my attributes down here. And if I do want, is it okay if I take a minute and show this one?
Oh, sure, of course.
Okay,
This is good.
Let's see. So I'm going to go ahead and grab this one. I'm going to copy it over. I'm still perfecting my method on this. So any suggestions, I'm welcome to them. I'm going to explode all of these into text instead of mtext, just to make it a little bit easier. I'm going to do this of number. I've been toying with whether this these should remain as mtext so I can tie them all together, but I still really like the ability of attributes to be able to be to connect a little bit better. I'm still kind of let's go with, I want to cancel, because the one thing I did find was that once I create the attribute in here, I want to create this one into an attribute as well. Tag, I need to change this into sheet total. Copy this, control copy sheet total. Okay, and then this one would be sheet count. It's okay. They're not actually automatically going to connect, but keeping them the same name just helps me. So sheet count of sheet total. I can't connect the field like I did before inside this block. What I found is if I tried to connect the field to an attribute while inside the block, it wasn't totally connecting to the custom fields in here. So there is another way to properly connect those. So right now I can see that. I can't see the attributes because I need to delete and reinsert 00. All of these are connected. Here's one place that you can add that field. So I can delete this and add this field. But the other way to get back to this, if I accidentally say, okay, and now it's really hard for me. If I double click it, I get back to this window where I don't want to make these changes. I can do it's at edit. There we go. And click on that block and now get this window back where I can properly find these custom fields. So now if I go to sheet count, insert field, I'm sure there's somebody going to be like, Amanda, there's a better way. I want to know it. So
yeah, there might be. Yeah, like you've got all these different dialog boxes do the same thing, and some can't edit. And yeah, it's
there we go.
frustrating. Yeah.
So current sheet custom. There's my custom sheet count that I added. Delete, insert field. We got current sheet set custom. There's my total sheet count. Add that in. Okay, 1 of 20. Now, if I go into here and go into properties of this, and I'm like, hey, there's actually only 3. I can edit that and regenerate and change that. I have seen some people actually tie this count to the number, the sheet number. The only problem with that is it tends to get confused with the land effects connection. And then you'd have to create a custom sheet, what was it, property to be able to tie to an attribute tag to sheet no instead. One way or the other, you're going to have to do a custom sheet property.
Excellent. Well, cool. You know what? That was so much, and I love these. Like we said, we aimed more for the intro to sheet sets, but obviously we've got some people in here that I think we definitely need a more advanced webinar and sheet sets. So we'll get that in the books here for as soon as we can. But we'll call it for now. Like I said, it's been recorded. This will be on the website. Have a fantastic weekend, everybody. We'll see you next time.
See you guys. Bye.